Welcome to Abu Dhabi Airport. Today we are heading on a very exciting trip. I'd say maybe our most exciting one yet, because we are doing our first Europe summer together and in Italy. We are flying into Milan, but we aren't spending any time there. We figured it would be very busy, plus it is the only place in Italy I have actually been before when I was a flight attendant with Emirates. So instead, we are heading down to Rome. But before we go anywhere, I need to show you this airport because it is my first time in AUH and I've heard amazing things about it. And honestly, it is stunning. The ceilings are insane, the food options are actually really good, and even our go-to coffee spot, Percent Arabica, is here. I mean, would I have expected anything less from the UAE's capital city? Absolutely not. I feel like my expectations for our Etihad flight are pretty high now. But let's check out the lounge and see what else AUH has to offer.
Tried not to slip into your blue, but I've been slipping into you. The floor is ice. Ooh, I should know better, but that's no fun. So ooh, let me down, light as a feather. When you're done, I'm a little too into you. Got my head over my shoes, but I like it. I'm a little too into you. Got me up over the moon.
Like I mentioned before, we are flying Etihad Airways. Now, even though Emirates might be the most famous airline out of the UAE, Etihad is actually the national carrier, and it's both our first time flying with them. Something really cool Etihad offers is this extra legroom area inside economy class. And it's not like other airlines that just have the bulkheads, front rows, and exit seating as the only extra legroom. But they have this whole section, kinda like premium economy, but literally nothing else is different apart from the extra legroom. So we did treat ourselves by booking this, as it was only an extra 187 dirham each, which is roughly 72 Aussie dollars. And for almost an 8-hour flight, I think that's so worth it. Plus, check out how much space we have. I can literally walk into the row. I also love how cute the blankets are tied up like this. However, I don't love them already being unwrapped. I'm just not too sure about how clean the people's hands are that are placing them out pre-flight, you know? Now this is so smart. I've seen so many amenity kits get left on board over my years of flying, and having them become a bag like this is genius. I've actually always wanted to buy those little foldable bags for groceries just to keep in my handbag or random spots in the car or our bikes in Bali. So I love this. I'm just loving Etihad's whole vibe in general.
Heart starts beating out my chest, breath strains in and out. Fought this feeling long enough, can't escape you now. Just a word, just a glimpse, I'm a soul in eclipse overtaking. My defense is for you, the altar call for my saving. Ooh, take me high, yeah. Take me high, yeah. Take me higher than I have reached into heaven before. Take me high, yeah. Take me high, yeah. You'll be lost in the clouds with the angels that found we were soaring. Going higher, higher, higher.
I'm an honest woman. Emirates catering is is significantly better than this. These trays just feel really small, but I do like the fact the side dishes on the trays have lids made of hard plastic, so they collect them to reuse them. Whereas Emirates just use these soft plastic lids that get thrown out. I feel like from the amenity bags and then this, Etihad is just that bit more conscious about sustainability and is really innovative. I'd actually really love to fly with them more, but the only thing is DXB is so much closer to us than AUH. I will say the extra legroom, for us at least, is way more important than the catering, as Zach and I always have something to do work-wise on board flights, so this extra space is genuinely a lifesaver. You know what else is a lifesaver? Having a second screen wherever you are. That's why I've been using the Arzopa Z3 FC portable monitor. I'm not even kidding, it's become one of those things I use every single day, especially with working on the go. Before this, everything had to fit onto one screen. Tabs everywhere, switching back and forth, it just felt so chaotic. Now I just plug this in and I instantly have a full second screen. It's just made everything so much smoother and quicker. Plus, the screen is super sharp, colors are amazing, and it's got 180 Hz refresh rate, which means there is no lag or delay. It honestly feels like an extension of my MacBook screen. Also, I love that you can use it horizontally or vertically. So if I'm reading through notes or a long document, I can just flip it and everything's full screen. But it's not just for work. Even at home while I'm cooking, I can just plug my phone in and instantly start watching something on a bigger screen. No apps, no setup, it just connects. Or Zach and I also use it with our Nintendo Switch, and it is so much more fun than crowding around a tiny screen. The connection is super simple too. Just one USB-C cable for both power and display. Or you can use HDMI and power separately so that it works with PS5, Xbox, PC, everything. The biggest game changer is how portable it is. It is under a centimeter thin and so lightweight. Whether I'm at home, in a cafe, I can have a proper setup without lugging around all this heavy gear. Honestly, if you work online, travel a lot, or just want a better setup at home, this is one of those things that makes your life just so much easier. Go check out the link in my description below and use my code for $12 off. Finally, a big thank you to Arzopa for sponsoring today's video. But now, let's get back to exploring Italy together.
Think I've been here before. I know that I must have met you in a past life. Got my heart on the floor. Go slow. Keep me falling for you all night. Tell me now, you're the one I've been dreaming about for my whole life. Had you on my mind? Oh, hear the sound of your voice in a crowd calling.
Being here is bringing back so many memories from my MXP layover. I actually caught this exact train into the city, and I just love how easy Europe makes this. It's only an hour and costing us 13 euros each, compared to Uber, which is saying 128. So seriously, it makes so much sense to catch the train.
Tell me now, you're the one I've been dreaming about for my whole life. Had you on my mind? Oh, hear the sound of your voice in a crowd calling my name. Yeah, you captivate. Oh, you captivate me. You captivate.
So I've mentioned before about my thing for checking out fast food places in different countries, and KFC in Italy has these veggie tenders that I need to know how they compare to the real deal. And I'll be honest, they're actually really good, like a little too good. But this is our lunch setup because I'm pretty sure there's not much on the train to Rome, and it is about a 3-hour trip. When we get to Rome though, it's gonna be time to really experience the Italian food scene, and we are both so freaking excited for this.
So give me lightning and all the stars.
Okay, it's official. I'm obsessed with traveling on trains now. Not having to deal with check-in, baggage, and all the pre-flight drama, it just feels so quick and easy. Plus, having our phones work is elite. Makes me really excited for when, hopefully, all airlines introduce Starlink one day, as I feel like that's the next major improvement we can see in our flying experiences. Now, Zach and I are treating ourselves on this trip, so we did book first class on the train. It's purely so we have that extra space for our laptops, and it was only an extra $30 each. Turns out I was wrong though, and there is a service on board. And our tickets do include water and a cookie. Plus, they do have a cafeteria set up the back. Something I am loving about the train though is being able to look outside, seeing all the beautiful small countryside towns that maybe we'll never visit, but we get to have this glimpse of. Honestly, this is just such a nice change from flying.
Run from the hills that call you. Don't you fight the feeling? Take a step and lean into me. Keep on breathing. And say you want me out into the open. Set us in motion. Set us on fire. Say you see me. Shout into the ocean. Set us in.
And this is where we're calling home for a week. It's the cutest one-bed apartment in this area called Prati. It's only like a 15-minute walk away from the famous Vatican City, which, if you stick around, we'll be spending our last few days exploring the smallest country in the world. Yes, you heard me right, but can we just take a moment for this shower setup? I have a feeling the toilet is going to get very wet. Also, for long stays like this, we always prefer to have some kind of kitchen space, just so we have the option to cook if we want to. But I think it's about time we go see what this famous city is all about and find ourselves our first real Italian meal.
Yeah, alright. Let's go. You could go make all the money in the world. You could drive the fancy car and get the girl. But none of that matters if you're not kind. If you're not kind. You could be the president of all America. Have some pearly white teeth.
Hello to our first gelato in Italy. Well, actually this is sorbet, but oh my word, it is incredible. It tastes like the inside of an apple pie, but cold and icy. We were actually planning to go to the restaurant next door as it has great Google reviews, but there's literally a line. So that's a big fat no from Zach. However, I did find this really cool hole-in-the-wall style pasta place only 5 minutes walk away, and it looks bangin'. You pick your dish type, then which pasta you want, which they have egg or no egg options, and all their pasta is of course homemade in-house. Then, no joke, it's ready in a couple of minutes. Best part is it's max €8 per dish, and that's including tax. I feel like we were just meant to come here. So now we can just sit out in the square nearby and soak up a little of what life is like here in Rome.
There's hot shots, dropouts, all the in-between. When you could be a million things. Be kind. Be kind. Be kind. Be kind. When you need a helping hand, a shoulder we can lean. When you could be a million things. Yeah, there's doctors, rock stars, teachers on the scene. When you could be a million things. Be kind. Be kind. Be kind. Be kind.
I feel like we've hacked loved it coming out this early. It is so peaceful and beautiful. Plus, we're getting all that gorgeous morning sun. And guys, I've never seen this before. I'm assuming they're covering up some construction work on the buildings, but are using this printed wrap that looks like the building. It's actually genius, and I'd say probably very needed in such a famous city with so many tourists. It does really make this city feel so elevated though. Also, I cannot explain to you how much we are loving how walkable Rome is. The streets are put together so well, plus I feel like every corner we turn, there's something insane like this. This is the Pantheon, which is a pretty famous building, and I'll tell you guys a little more about it when we go inside later this week. But looks like we found where literally everyone is, at the famous Trevi Fountain. I think we're gonna come back another day and have the plan to go straight here as early as possible.
All the fellas saying it won't work, waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're too perfect, I'm gonna get hurt, but I think they're perfectly wrong. She likes my music and I like her love. I'm still playing poker Monday nights, ain't no stressing over where I'm at. She's a once in a lifetime kind of find. All I've ever wanted is the best of both worlds.
Now, you guys might be thinking I had to do some serious convincing to get Zach on this, but he actually loved the idea when I brought it up. So we are doing the hop on, hop off bus, purely so we can go around the city and see everything, to then kind of figure out where we want to go explore more of. However, we aren't doing it the traditional way of getting off at a spot and exploring, then getting back on. Instead, we're just going to stay on for the whole loop. Are we the only ones who do this, or is this actually the normal thing? Also, FYI, a little hack is if you buy the tickets on the bus, it's 25 euros each, whereas if you buy it online, it's 20. And you get emailed the tickets instantly, which they just scan. So a quick 10 euro savings just to buy via a link? Hell yeah.
Keep concessions to the popcorn stand, ain't giving up the life I've got. I'm still betting big on my own hand, but with you we're both taking the pause. Is it so much to ask for everything and some more? Making moves and cutting loose and loving you, girl. I wanna have my cake and eat it too. I wanna feel that heat and still stay cool. I wanna live my life too good to be true.
Can you guess what's for lunch? More pasta. Should I be worried about gaining weight on this trip, or do we think it'll balance out with all the steps we're doing? Either way, I'm trying the pesto gnocchi and Zach's going for the lasagna. And would it really be a true Italy experience if we don't try our first tiramisu?
I wear my heart on my sleeve, on my pants, on my shoes, and if you hurt it, I bleed, I will break, I will bruise. Some have told me to change, to grow tough, to be strong, but if you take me this way, let our love prove them wrong. You know they're always trying to change the way that we're playing the game, but we're not gonna play alone no more. You just be you, and I'll be whatever crazy version of me decides to come through.
For this evening, we are heading towards a very famous location called the Spanish Steps. And I'm a little nervous about how busy it's going to be, but there are pros and cons to everything, right? Because the streets are so lively. It's actually pretty cool seeing all the fun and unique things all set up for the crowds. There's also this really huge park called Villa Borghese right behind the steps. Just look at this. This spot is called Terrazza del Pincio, and if you have no hope of remembering this, this, don't worry, I've made a Google map with all the places, cool cafes, and things you'll see in this video. It's linked below. Then from here, if you follow the path's edge around, there's another viewpoint and a whole bunch of little ones along the way, before you finally get to the Spanish Steps from above. Now, these steps were built in 1725, making them just over 300 years old, but they have gone through a few renovations, with the most recent one being in 2015, actually funded by the luxury brand Bulgari. And there is a reason for this. Their first ever store was actually at the top of the Spanish Steps, opened in 1884. Then they eventually opened another one in the square below, which became their most famous store. To celebrate their 130th anniversary of this store, they donated 1.5 million euros and adopted the Spanish Steps as a tribute to their history and connection to this amazing city and this iconic spot.
To get sad, let you get under my skin, but I guess I kinda grew out of dancing around it. Closed my door so you can't get in. Doing better than I've ever been. I'm putting on my makeup, taking another shot of all the good stuff, shining when I wake up. I don't hear talking, forgetting you like nobody is watching. Good at moving on, yeah. So you can keep trying to knock me down, but I laugh it off. You're losing sleep, trying to.
So Zach thought yesterday's lasagna was good, but he wasn't blown away. Like, we're in Italy, so the flavors should be out of this world, right? But today, we're getting some true Italian flavors, as he said this lasagna is the best he's ever had. I think the tomato and cheese at this restaurant is just a bit more bold and rich compared to what we had for lunch yesterday. Also, you know I'm a sucker for something sweet. Plus, I've heard an ungodly amount of things about getting lemon sorbet in Italy, especially in the whole lemon like this, so you best believe we're trying it. It's very vibey and very Instagrammable, but we could not finish it. It was so sweet. I think I'd prefer to try one that's less sweet and more sour. One that really makes you squint, you know? Now, Zach isn't the biggest tour guy. Anything to do with crowds of people lining up or just purely relying on someone else's schedule, he just does not enjoy. But being in a relationship means you give and take, and even though he doesn't like tours, I do. So when it comes to the Coloseum, from what I understand, there is a part that you can't access unless you're on a tour. So I've looked really hard to find the perfect tour, to kind of meet Zach in the middle, because I don't want him to hate every minute of it. So I've booked us a night tour for tomorrow night. It's max, I think, 25 people, and seeing as it's at night, there should be way less crowds around, right? This way, we still get to see inside one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Today though, we are doing our own walking tour around the outside of the Colosseum. There's also so much around the Colosseum. Honestly, I could explore this all day. I also love that Europe has so many of these arches throughout it, all in different countries with different meanings, yet they look so similar. Zach's kind of the opposite here. He's like, once you've seen one, why do you need to see the others? They all look the exact same in his eyes.
I believe we can wrong these rights. I believe if we get through this, we can get through anything. Somehow we need to learn to let go. Somehow we need to heal these scars when the burden feels too heavy.
Now, Now, Zach's best friend Luca, who's from Italy, told us that this area called Trastevere is his favorite in all of Rome. So we of course have to go see what it's all about. The crowd here definitely feels younger, and there's way more street performers. This area is known for lively piazzas and more nightlife in general, but it's also got all these really small, narrow streets, giving you that village and medieval times feeling. I can see why people fall in love with this part of the city.
We can pick up the broken pieces and truly live our lives. Now I'm enjoying my song. I feel a dance in my feet.
Good morning. We are up nice and early this morning because it's about a 30-minute walk to the Trevi Fountain, and we are determined to get there before the crowds. We thought 6:30 a.m. would be nice and quiet, but oh my, we are so wrong. It is pumping. Like, are we really meant to wake up at 5 a.m. to beat this? If you're planning a trip to Rome, just assume this place is always busy. We're still going to make the most of it and, of course, do the famous coin toss. The tradition is you stand with your back to the fountain and you use your right hand to throw a coin over your left shoulder. You can throw up to 3 coins depending on what you want. 1 coin means you'll return to Rome, 2 coins is for love, and 3 is either marriage or divorce. And you're meant to throw each coin separately. What's really cool is all the coins are collected twice a week and donated to a Catholic charity.
Parla, parla, io mi stanco in fretta e la notte è lunga. Stringimi le mani e dimmi amore ferma, che se corri troppo poi la luna scappa. Per favore resta qui con me, persi dentro a questa immensità. Mentre tu mi prendi in giro, ridi.
Oh my gosh, guys, how cute is this? I actually didn't even know this existed, but thanks to Zach's mum who saw it on TikTok, she told us about it last night. It's costing €5 each, which we paid cash for, and you get to go out on a rowboat for 20 minutes by ourselves, which is so fun because I feel like Italy, well, Venice, is known for people rowing you, right? There's also this temple in the middle area of the lake, which is so vibey. I feel like I'm in an Italian rom-com right now, but it's real life. It's so unique and fun, plus it's pretty cheap and we didn't wait long at all. It is a little hot in the sun, so just keep that in mind, but I feel like this is a gorgeous little hidden gem if you're ever coming to Rome.
Il mio cuore impazza, sei così vicino e dici amore, guarda, che se chiudi gli occhi il sogno poi svanisce e voglio sognare insieme a te, persi dentro questa immensità, io ti ascolterai per ore, parla, parla, io mi stanco in fretta.
Guys, I feel like a lifelong dream is about to come true because we are going inside the Coloseum. I don't know about you, but this is something I've known about since I was a kid. And being from Australia, Italy always felt so far away. So before I started flying, I honestly had no idea when or if I'd ever get to see it in real life. Now, the Colosseum is one of the new 7 wonders of the world, and for a good reason. It's the largest amphitheater ever built, it's nearly 2,000 years old, and it's one of the greatest feats in the world, only taking 8 years to build. Sadly, that's because it was built using slaves. It was, however, originally called the Flavian Amphitheatre, named after the emperors who designed and built it. But the name Colosseum actually came from a huge 100-foot bronze statue nearby called the Colossus of Nero, which people would reference as a meeting point, and eventually the nickname Colosseum just stuck. Now, the first place we're exploring on our tour is the main arena. This is where everything happened. Gladiator fights, executions, animal battles, even performances, basically anything that was considered entertainment at the time. The arena floor was made of wood and covered in sand, and underneath it were trapdoors and tunnels, used to surprise the crowd by lifting animals or fighters up into the arena. There were also bigger doors at the end of the arena which were used for larger animals, and I mean big animals, like lions and elephants, purely to show off Rome's strength by having these powerful foreign animals. These end doors were also where the gladiators came out. The wild thing is, a lot of the time, the gladiators were slaves or prisoners who had to sign a contract forcing them to fight. But if they won, they'd be granted fame, fortune, and freedom. Plus, if they won 25 games, they'd be granted citizenship. Now, the Colosseum could hold up to 80,000 people, and its seating was divided into levels based on social class. The emperor and elite sat closest to the action on level 1, and the higher you go up, the lower the status. However, it was free to attend. You'd get this ticket made of stone with a number that told you exactly where to go. They also had a retractable roof system to shade the crowd, which is actually what inspired modern stadiums today. Underneath the Colosseum is a whole other world too, a network of tunnels and rooms where animals and gladiators were held, prepared, and moved around before entering the arena. There were even underground passageways leading to training areas outside the Colosseum. Just from all this, you can really start to understand the level of detail and expertise that went into creating this building and the function of it. The Colosseum was used for all of this for around 500 years, before being abandoned in the 17th century and eventually having its marble, bronze, and metal all stolen, with a lot of the monuments around Rome actually containing marble from the Colosseum. But to end our night on a slightly lighter note, our tour guide told us that the Colosseum is now home to around 200 resident cats that are all looked after and cared for. It's actually why there are a lot of souvenirs with cats on them, which Zach and I really couldn't figure out why till right now. Today's the day we're exploring the smallest country in the world. And if you didn't know, it's Vatican City right here inside Rome. I'll get into the history in a second because it's actually really interesting. But first, the tickets. We booked ours online for the 8:30 a.m. slot, thinking we'd be able to just walk in. But even with skip the line tickets we bought online, it means you skip the ticket purchase line, not the security line or the line to pick up your tickets beforehand. Because if you book through a third party like we did, you have to go to a place called a tourist station, which luckily there's one right near the entrance. So FYI, if you are planning a trip to the Vatican, definitely arrive much earlier than your slot. Now, Vatican City itself is tiny, like half a square kilometer, with roughly 800 people living here, including the Pope. But what makes it really interesting is how it actually became its own country. For centuries, the Catholic Church ruled large parts of central Italy, known as the Papal States. But in the 1800s, when Italy unified into one country, the Church lost most of that land. Then, for decades after that, the Pope basically refused to leave the Vatican, even considering himself a prisoner there. Then, in 1929, the Lateran treaty was signed between Italy and the Holy See, which is the Catholic Church's governing authority. And then Vatican City was officially recognized as its own independent state. So today, everything inside here is its own country, ruled by the Pope. And you don't actually need to bring a passport to get in. Now, let's talk about the Vatican Museums, because I was not prepared for this. I thought maybe one building or a couple of rooms, but it is huge. It's basically a series of museums that just keep going and going and going. I feel like the whole Vatican City is just this museum, to be honest. And every single wall, ceiling, even floors are covered in insane detail. But after a while, you almost stop reacting because there's just so much of it. You'll look up and think that ceiling is unreal. And then a minute later, there's another one just as crazy. I'm starting to get that this is maybe how Zach feels about all the touristy things we do. One of my favorite parts though has to be the gallery of maps. It's this long hallway lined with huge detailed maps of Italy, all painted in the late 1500s. And the ceiling, of course, is insane. At the time, these maps were considered very accurate. I'd say basically they're the Google Maps of Italy back then, right? Even Zach's loving this geography part, looking at how they understood the world at the time and what they thought it looked like. And somehow, all of this still isn't even the main highlight, because everything in here leads to the Sistine Chapel. It's home to Michelangelo's famous art called The Creation of Adam. You know, the one with the hand reaching out between man and God? But something I never realized though is that it's not just one painting. It's part of an entire ceiling, and it's huge. Now, this next part might be a bit random, but I really wanted to check out the Egyptian section. I've always found Egyptian history so fascinating. I think it's because growing up, I used to watch a bunch of TV shows that referenced a lot of Egyptian mythology. I also have to get a postcard, and there's even a post office here inside the Vatican Museums, so you can actually send it from the smallest country in the world. We did wander briefly into the garden area, but there's not too much more to see. Another famous spot you might be wondering about, which is St. Peters Basillica, is actually outside the museum complex, and we've saved that for tomorrow. Now, one of the most iconic and Instagrammable spots in the Vatican Museums is actually right here at the exit. This is the Momo spiral staircase. Personally, I don't think it's possible to get it empty if that's the photo you're dreaming of, but even with people, it still looks incredible. And honestly, what a cool way to finish off our time in the Vatican Museums.
Hey, I just met you, but I have to say, I just saw you in a picture and it made my day. 'Cause lately I don't know what I'm trying to be, but when I see...
Now, don't laugh at us, but we're purely here because it's included in our Vatican tickets. But this is the Pantheon, and I mean, it is magnificent with a true Roman-style entrance. It's actually so cool that this is just right in the middle of the city, and it's almost 2,000 years old. And even after all these years, it still holds the record for the largest unreinforced dome in the world, which basically means it's held up purely by its design, materials, and thickness. Zach's photography eye is obsessed with this hole in the ceiling, but it's actually so cool the way it creates this almost holy beam of light coming down. It's also a tomb, and the famous painter Raphael is buried here. So even though it wasn't on our must-do list, this is still such a meaningful and cool spot to check out.
Pedal to the floor, the windows down. Nothing but the road before us now. See the hot yellow sun light up the clouds. We can park the car beside the beach, start a little fire and share a drink. Underneath the stars we'll learn to dream.
So I spotted this place yesterday and I really want to try it out. It's like another hole in the wall kind of spot and the food is incredible. These little hidden gem takeaway spots that we're just walking past are seeming to be some of our favorites. Zach said this is on par with the lasagna he had from that buddy restaurant yesterday, but for me, nothing's quite beating that yet.
Wake up in the sand beneath the heat, dive into the waves and shed the week, swimming in the California breeze. Let our skin bathe in the sunlight, no need for tracking the time, the highways where we unwind. Oh, oh. We're getting ready for the summer, running while we can soak in the sunshine. Couldn't ask for better weather. We're getting ready for the summer. Foolish dreamers, wonder seekers, we go where the air is sweet. In the desert, find the river, close your eyes and take a drink. Ready for the summer. Ready for the summer. We're getting ready for the summer, running while we can soak in the sunshine. Couldn't ask for better weather.
This is St. Peters Basilica, the largest church in the world and arguably one of the most important. The entire basilica is built over the tomb of St. Peter, one of Jesus's closest disciples, also known as Simon, and he's considered to be the very first pope. His tomb is believed to be directly beneath the main altar in the levels below and is marked by this huge bronze canopy called the baldachin. Now, this whole building is just massive. From the floor to the top of the dome, it's about 136 meters, which is roughly 45 stories high. And even the letters inside the dome are around 2 meters tall, so that you can clearly read them even from all the way down here. The dome itself is one of the most famous parts of the basilica. It was redesigned by Michelangelo around 40 years into construction, which was apparently a mess. He gave it its iconic shape, actually inspired by the Pantheon, but taller and more dramatic, so that it would completely dominate both the interior and Rome's skyline. What's crazy is Michelangelo didn't actually decorate any of the church, he just designed the part that makes your jaw drop. He does have one famous piece inside here though, called the Pieta. He carved it when he was just 24 years old, and it shows Mary holding Jesus. It's also one of the few life-size sculptures in the basilica, while most of the others are around 3 to 4 meters tall. Yet the scale of this place is so big, you don't even think about that. Another thing you might not realize is that almost every painting you see here is actually a mosaic. The tiles are just so tiny you can't even tell, and they perfectly mimic brushstrokes to look like paintings. And the reason for this is so the artwork can last for centuries, even millennia, without deteriorating. And by the way, this isn't just a tourist attraction, it's a fully functioning church. There are regular mass services here and huge ones during events like Easter and Christmas. Honestly, being here for a service would be an incredible experience. But even just walking through here as a tourist, this place is breathtaking. Now, just outside is St. Peter's Square, the famous entrance to the basilica. It was designed for massive public gatherings and can hold over 300,000 people. Everything here was built intentionally, from the huge curved columns that look like open arms welcoming you in, to the symmetry that draws your eyes straight to the church. It's also one of the main places where the Pope addresses the public, especially during those major religious events. Florence. This whole place feels so ancient, yet it's just under 400 years old, which somehow feels young when comparing to places like the Pantheon or the Coloseum. Okay guys, I did not expect this, but I found this place on some Rome food blogs, and it's a full buffet style restaurant with these insane choices. I think this might be my favorite kind of restaurant, purely because I can try a little bit of everything, which makes me think I should try more hotel breakfasts. But it is charged by weight here, and I'm not gonna lie, it's expensive. Our 2 plates and a water is costing us 47 euros, which is like 80 Aussie dollars. That being said, everything is so fresh, so flavorful, and there's just so much variety. Also, something really sweet, and I don't even know why, but the owner has given us a free dessert, which I was kinda eyeing off, but wasn't sure about spending the extra money. But when we come back to Rome next, you best believe Zach and I are coming straight here, because the food is just so delicious. I think we'll be thinking about this place for a long time. It is now at the top for our favorite restaurant in Rome. Tonight is our last night in Rome, so Zach has booked us a very special spot for dinner, which I of course found, but he wanted to take us out somewhere fancy to celebrate our first time in Italy together. This is our dinner spot, Marta Tere. This restaurant holds a Michelin green star for its commitment to eco-friendly practices, sustainability, and high-quality organic dining, which is so unique. We're both expecting it to be pretty pricey, but I mean, it has this incredible 360-degree view of Rome's vibey rooftops, and we will be here in time to watch the sunset. The service is already 5-star. I feel like you know you're in a fine dining restaurant when they have a dedicated seat for your bag. We will be ordering main dishes from the menu, but they've given us some complimentary starters, beginning with this savory dish served in a flower pot. I actually expected it to be a dessert for some reason. Like, it just gives me this vibe you can eat the whole thing, including the pot, and it should be made out of chocolate. Still, pretty tasty and very creative. Next up is the trusty bread with olive oil and balsamic. And I swear, apart from our favorite Italian restaurant in Bali, nowhere does this like Italy. The balsamic here is to die for. Now, everything so far is pretty good, and looking through the menu, everything sounds amazing. But I'll be honest, our food just wasn't it. Maybe we both just chose really wrong with artichoke dishes, and I mean, they look amazing, but I just felt like there was nothing to them, and the texture was so stringy. Again, maybe artichoke is just not for us, but for the price of everything on the menu, even if we're both still a little hungry, I think we'll go elsewhere to top up. Anyone else like this, or is it just us? Look, even if the main dishes were a bit of a flop, for us at least, no one can deny this spot is outrageous. We can even see a wedding happening on a nearby rooftop. I don't think we could have picked a more beautiful way to spend our last night in Rome.
Looking back when I was young, had a dream when I grew up, I would be someone, gonna be someone, yeah, building towers in my mind, something they could see was mine, and then I'd be loved, see what I have done, I've been searching for something.
And that's a wrap, Rome. What an incredible first week in Italy. Trying all kinds of authentic Italian food, seeing ancient buildings built so long ago I can't even fathom, and visiting the smallest country in the world. We are wrapping up our last morning checking out these really cool markets at Campo di Fiori, which we are a little early for, but Zach's aiming to get those vibey, real-life street moments, you know? So these authentic setting up scenes are kinda perfect for him, and I still get to look at all the cool local market stuff. Even though we are saying goodbye to Rome, our Italy story doesn't finish here, as we are working our way down the country with our next stop, the city of Naples. I have no idea what to expect there. All I know is my Italian friend from Milan says people up north just don't tend to visit Naples. So let's see. But as always, thank you so much for watching. It means the absolute world to me. Don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you next in Naples.